first let's start with the buttons. I'm going to be using these new Hero Hues buttons. I like them because they come in a variety pack here in different colors. There's a light, medium, and dark in each shade, and they match our inks and our papers. So there are also these clear buttons. These clear ones have flowers on it, and then the matte ones are nice and flat and perfect for stamping. So I'll show you that in a little bit. But you could use any buttons for this. I just happen to like these quite a bit, and I'm using the Sunshine, Blush, and Foliage buttons here. Now for the necklace, you need some sort of string. I'm just using inexpensive string here because I'm making this necklace for one of my kids. And you can use ribbon, you can use silk string, you can use all different kinds of things. But I'm using this inexpensive string, and I'm cutting a long piece. It's like 2 yards, folded in half. And on the folded end, I'm going to just tie a knot a few inches from the end. Now you could, if you're into jewelry making, you could put a nice clasp on this or whatever, but I'm just tying the ends together when I put it around my neck. It's just easier that way, and I don't need any extra supplies for that. So now I'm going to go to the other two ends of the string. So I need 2 strings here. So I just folded one in half to get the 2. And I'm taking one of my buttons, and with one of the strings I'm going up one side and out the other, as you can see here. Then I'm going to take the second string and go the opposite. So up the other side and out the other. So you'll see I'm going in the other side. It's kind of tricky at first, and then I'll go back out the other. So you end up with a little loop on each side and an end coming out of each side on the left of the button. So you'll see here the 2 ends, and now I'm just going to pull it all the way down to that knot that we made. Now you could use like needles or the threading, beading threaders or whatever they're called to do this to make it easier. However, I'm just using what I have on hand, which is just the end of the string, and it works out fine for me. I'll show you a trick to keep it from fraying in a moment. So this is what the buttons will look like at the end, and I have it pushed up against the knot. Now I'm going to make another knot on the other side of the button as tight as I can to it. You could also put a bead here if you wanted to, but I'm just doing a knot because that's what I have. So I'm just going to push this real tight here. So I have the button sandwiched between the 2 knots, and that's not gonna go anywhere. So now it's time to add another button, so I'll show it again. I'll go in one side and out the other. And then I will take the other string and go the opposite. Again, you could tie needles to the end of this if that makes it simpler, whatever works well for you. I like to make these with my teenage stepdaughters. We have a lot of fun making these. I did one that was rainbow once, and I wore it to the mall, and I actually got so many compliments I ended up taking it off because people kept asking me how I made it. So it's off. They look really impressive once you have them done. So I went in one side and out the other. So now I'm just going to pull it all the way down to the other end where the other button is. Now this type of necklace, I'm going to show you another one in a moment. This one's quicker to make. Because the buttons are spaced apart, and also it uses less buttons. So I'm going to tie another knot close to it. Again, you could put some sort of bead here if you'd like also. So I just keep adding buttons one after another, and you'll see it. You could do colored string here or thin silk ribbon. Anything looks nice. So now I wanted to show you how I stamped these buttons on here, just to add a little bit of interest. So I'm going to do white embossing on it. You could just do StazOn, but I like the white on the colored buttons. So I'm using this Hero Arts background stamp, and I'm inking it with Versamark ink, which is just a sticky clear ink. And I'm using these little pliers, but you could use tweezers too, just to hold the button, making sure that they're not sticking out the other side. And I'm just going to press the button flat onto the ink. See it there because it's a clear ink. But now I'm going to dip this into my white embossing powder. I like the Hero Arts white embossing powder. It's nice and crisp, but you could use any color actually here. So you'll see there's embossing powder on there, and I'm just going to zap it with a heat gun because I've got my pliers holding it. I don't have to worry about burning myself. And this will melt pretty quickly. And before I touch it, I'm just going to give it a second to cool so I don't mess up the embossing. And you just pop it off and you have an embossed buttons. And actually you could do both sides. These Hero Arts buttons are pretty flat, so you could do that. Now here's a trick to keep the end of your string from fraying. I just take a little glossy accents and rub it on the end of the string, and this will keep it from fraying like I was having before. You could also use needles or whatever, but this is a nice little trick because it's something that you might have on do a rainbow with. But here I did it in all oranges and yellows. Now this version